For the majority of us, life is mundane, not free of struggles but completely clear of the extraordinary. But some people are not so lucky. Life ravages them from every avenue possible, and yet it wants more. It strips away everything, leaves them bleeding on the cold hard ground as their own mind flays their consciousness. Guilt charring their insides as they see the hopes and dreams of their loved ones reduced to cinders. But what if there was an opportunity to rescue your loved ones despite yourself? Would you take a walk through hell to restore the one you love, even if it takes your soul to do it? This is the reality faced by Senua, a young Pictish warrior rowing her way into Helheim. She seeks the rotten giantess Hela. She wishes to trade herself for the soul of her dear husband Dillion, who was murdered by her rebellion against the gods. The Northmen may have been the conduit, but it was her darkness that set the domino in motion. She hears the voices of the souls residing in her head. Some are helpful, while most other either cast doubts or spew venom in her mind. Yet this is the burden that she must bear, as she was cursed by the gods to be a harbinger of death and destruction, a herald of misfortune to anyone foolish enough to be around her. She had become foolish and thought that she had the power to beat this darkness, and for a time she thought she had been successful, but the darkness came. Its shroud of despair took everything away in retaliation. So here she is, on her way to rectify her mistake, to rescue her beloved and to give herself over to damnation. Helheim is an empty wasteland of death and despair, yet you can't help but feel swarmed, as if something wants to drag you down and rip you apart for your insolence. We are plagued by the darkness as it seeks to take over Senua and put her foolish ambitions to rest. In this realm of damnation, Senua meets a familiar face, Druth, the storyteller, the one who educated her on the matters of Northman culture and deities. He had promised to guide Senua in both life and death as he faded away in that forest. So here he was, making good on his promise. In order to reach Hela, Senua must defeat both Valravan and Surt. Valravan is the bane of the isolated. He will exploit the fear of the dark and the unknown as he slowly peels away your sanity, and only when you are on your knees begging for the sweet release of death will he swoop down like a bird of prey and feast upon your flesh sweetened by fear. In his domain, Senua felt watched and helpless as he descended upon her and took his pickings of her flesh. But Druth's words ring true in her ear. This shroud of darkness may have her surrounded, but it is also vulnerable to her action. And in just one courageous glance at the predator, all is revealed. To defeat the pain of the cold grips of loneliness and uncertainty of the dark, she must hold its gaze and let courage guide her sword and her fear guide her instincts. That, combined with the skill, was enough to bring down the harbinger of shadows. Next up would be the fire giant Surt. He is destruction incarnate, the one who will bring about Ragnarok and reduce this world to cinders. His domain is a miasma of suffering. To move around here is to know the pain, panic, the smell of burnt hair and flesh as the people around you burn. In her attempts to reach Surt, Senua was reduced to a charred corpse, and it would have been her end if not for the other side of Surt's flames. Surt is a symbol of destruction, but he is also the herald of a new age, one free of the drawbacks of the last one, something fresh. From those very flames, Senua walks out, born anew, ready to harness her anger instead of letting it destroy her. She channels it in her ferocious strikes and agile movements, and she gets the better of Surt. Even in this moment of triumph, we can feel the shift in the environment. The darkness is on the prowl and it will strike true. It takes us to the day Senua lost her soul. Smoke billowing out from the singed remains of the huts. Bodies and gore scattered about. Familiar faces all burnt up and impaled as a proud display. But nothing could have compared to the horror on the top of the hill.
Love left him in tears to smother your furies and banish your fears. But in darkness they came, through stormy black seas they raided these shores. Do you still hear his screams? And now that you're home, so far away. They've taken his soul. To these gods you cannot pray. They can break you, but not your promise. Even death won't keep you apart. Through his darkness you will find him. In your sword still beats a heart. You fought for love unspoilt by your darkness within. You fought for your dreams. Now there's no way to win. In the head of his corpse lies the seat of his soul. So you must carry his vessel to bring him back home.
No!
The mutilated limbs, the broken ribs pulled out from behind to resemble wings. The beautiful soul violated in the cruelest fashion imaginable. Her screams were deafening, and her pain immeasurable, but nothing could have prepared her for the cacophony of voices that assaulted her with doubt, fear, anger, and hatred. The darkness retreats to the background as the memory fades away from around her. Despite this heartbreaking reminder, she still clings on to her plan. Though these events that have transpired till now also deserve some scrutiny, why is Senua's intrusion into Helheim being treated with such indifference by Hela? Though Senua is a skilled and ruthless warrior, can she really just fell gods as a mere mortal? And why does Helheim behave exactly like Druth proclaimed? But putting those questions on the back burner for now, all that remains is the confrontation with death, the rotten goddess that was banished to Helheim for being too powerful. Senua takes a step through that gate, and with each subsequent step, her body betrays her. Her legs buckle and her mind shrieks in the terror of the inevitable looming above in front of her. She makes a half-hearted attempt at fighting Hela and is thrown from the bridge down onto the shore. With this devastating failure, the darkness is relentless. It mocks her moment of weakness and leads her down the limbo of self-loathing. It looks to be hopeless for Senua, but the atmosphere shifts and we see a figure of light that Senua recognizes to be Dillion. On chasing this ray of hope, Senua finds herself near the tree where she had first tasted kindness and intrigue, the day she had met the son of the village chief, Dillion, as he practiced his swordplay. But this illusion is quickly shattered as the world around her changes to showcase the current state of her situation. But all is not lost. In the heart of the tree lies Gram. The sword that once harnessed has the capacity to kill Hela. Though to acquire the sword, Senua must collect its fragments by completing 4 trials: the Labyrinth, Tower, Swamp, and Blindness. Each of these trials makes Senua face some of her hardest moments in her life and her greatest insecurities. The Labyrinth trial forces her to confront her years of captivity under her father's Zinbel and her eventual rebellion to attain her freedom, though even that came with an ominous threat.
No boy is going to save you. No one can. When they see the rot growing inside you,
No!
they will turn their back on you. The gods can only fix you through my hand. You're going nowhere.
No.
You will not defy the gods. Come, child, take my hand. Come, Senua.
I am leaving!
You cannot escape the darkness. Your curse will make everyone suffer. You will have blood on your hands!
The tower trial brings a fear of losing Dillion to the forefront and gives us a first-hand look at how kind, wonderful and compassionate of a person he was. The swamp trial brings her experiences of persecution to light. Despite her warning, the villagers kept on trudging through the swamp. And for that ignorance, they were ravaged by the plague. The village was in disarray as people dropped dead left and right. The ones who remained needed someone to alleviate them of all this grief that they were feeling, even if it was for a transient moment. And in that moment, they chose to point their fingers at Senua's darkness. The blindness trial makes us experience the loneliness that Senua feels every moment of the day. The curse keeps her isolated and blind to the kinship she could have had with the people around. With all the trials completed and her memories refreshed, she pulls out Gram, and immediately the darkness traps her in a formation meant to break her spirit and crush her hope. It shows her a vision of Dillion grieving his father and spewing venom at Senua for bringing the plague, though something feels off here. And before we can give it any thought, we are surrounded by the darkness's cronies, but they get thrashed all the same. But as it fades away, it shines a light on Senua's mother, Galena, and her apparent suicide. Something that Senua tried to attempt herself only to be stopped by Dillion, and here we see a contradiction between the vision and the memory.
We've lost so many. And I've lost my father. I can't lose you.
You said it. I have blood on my hands.
I didn't say that. You've done nothing wrong.
Once again, before we have the chance to question it, we have to set off into the mountains in a quest to find Hela. Though something sinister seems to stalk these halls. The darkness is its prowling grounds, and we are but a deer in the headlights. Senua runs from one bastion of light to another, and in that process she supposedly runs into her mother locked behind a door. Though it turns out to be a trap and leads to Senua losing Dillion's head, the darkness berates her and once again seeks to crush her hope. But Senua stands tall and heads off to reclaim Dillion. Her love and strength are a testament to behold as she stands up to the beast itself, as it means the difference between rescuing Dillion or losing him forever. She emerges victorious and the darkness retreats even further, claiming to have been bested by Senua, but once again, something is fishy here. But it doesn't matter as we are in the final stretch of her journey. Senua has grown stronger and more resolute to face the demons and the god ahead. But before that, she must see the truth of what she has suppressed so long ago. Her mother did not commit suicide. She was burned at the stake by her father Zinbel and his cult of religious zealots. A young Senua was there to witness the machinations of her deluded father and the misery-laced death of her mother. Now that her family's secrets were out, Senua realized that there was no darkness. It was all Zinbel and his lunacy. She screams out her frustrations at him, but he hits her with something she isn't quite ready to accept. If there is no darkness, then there is no hell either, and no soul for Senua to resurrect. She rejects Zinbel's words and charges ahead at Hela. At first, Hela still seems indomitable, humongous, but with each step that we take and the more demons that we face, Hela seems to become smaller and smaller, though we still cannot fight her directly. Senua keeps slaughtering the demons, but they keep appearing. She fights till her knees buckle and her hand no longer obeys her, essentially giving up the fight. As Hela approaches her, Senua cries her heart out, screaming to bring back Dillion and take her instead, though that quickly turns into denial of the supposed validity of the rotten goddess. As Senua rambles on, Hela runs her abdomen through with Gram. Senua lies on the ground broken and exhausted, slowly fading away as Dillion talks to her of death and its shadow. It seems that he is preparing her to face her end, but it is not what it seems, as Hela picks up Dillion's head and lets it go into the sea below. Slowly panning the camera back up, we see Senua is in the same place Hela stood, and all the pieces fall into place. This entire journey was a construct inside Senua's mind, connected by her grief clinging on to Druth's tales, to cope with Dillion's death. There was no curse, no darkness, only the unfortunate ailment of psychosis. It was the reason for the voices in both Senua and Galena's head, all of the hallucinations that drove them insane and led to them being ostracized and demonized was just a symptom of their ailment exacerbated by the ignorance and hatred of the people around them. Senua lost her mother, her entire childhood in the name of religious zealotry that looked at her condition like it was a curse. It crippled her life, and when she dared to fight back and rebel to reclaim even the smallest semblance of her life, she was kicked down, misled and manipulated, all in the name of gods. Her attempts at shielding the single bastion of happiness in her life led her away from her hope and what she truly needed and deserved. And her reward for all her efforts was the massacre of her village by the Northmen, the followers of Surt who laid waste to her people and violated the soul of her beloved. This event triggered a severe episode of psychosis that led to the events we see in the game. All of the symptoms of psychosis translated to different mechanics in the game. The voices serve as both the narrative device and a danger indicator in combat. Apophenia, the phenomena of seeing patterns where there are none, became the basis for the puzzles in the game. This game has no tutorials, but it explicitly tells you that if the darkness reaches Senua's head, her journey will come to an end. At no other point will any of the game's mechanics be displayed in such a meta way. This is purposeful because it not only showcases Senua's delusion but also creates an effective bluff mechanic that immerses the player in Senua's shoes as she fights tooth and nail to survive this ordeal, with the looming threat of losing yourself to the darkness if you die too many times. Valravan represents Senua's experiences during her exile and her general experience of the darkness, while Surt represents the focal point of Senua's anger. Fenrir represents the buried secrets inside Senua's mind that came to the forefront when she started remembering, hoping and striving for better. Hela is Senua. She is the grief that Senua feels after losing the love of her life. Hela is death. In the stories narrated by Druth, we learn that she was banished into Helheim because she was too powerful to control. This entire story represents the human fear of death and how we want to master it, or at least confine it to a small little box where we don't have to think about it anymore. Senua metaphorically and allegorically went through hell and back in order to learn to let go of her grief, to not let the loss of her loved ones chain her down, and to recognize that she does not deserve to suffer and that she can live her life with the loss of Dillion because he still exists in her mind and heart. His words and his impact has forever left an impression on Senua. She should cherish the time they had together and look forward to the world that moved on from them, even if it hurts. Because life is worth living, especially with all the loss that comes with it. For grief is the price we pay for love.
They can break you, but not your promise. Even death won't keep you apart. Through his darkness you will find him. In your sword still beats a heart.
Thank you for watching.